The Adversary by Emmanuel Carrère. Read by Joseph Kloska. On the Saturday morning of January 9th, 1993, while Jean-Claude Roman was killing his wife and children, I was with mine in a parent-teacher meeting at the school attended by Gabriel, our eldest son. He was 5 years old, the same age as Antoine Roman. Then we went to have lunch with my parents, as Jean-Claude Roman did with his, whom he killed after their meal. I usually devote Saturday afternoons and Sundays to my family, but I spent the rest of that weekend alone in my studio because I was finishing up a book I had been working on for over a year, a biography of the science fiction writer Philip K. Dick. The last chapter described the days he spent in a coma before his death. I completed it on Tuesday evening, and on Wednesday morning opened my newspaper to the lead article on the Roman case. Luc l'Admiral was awakened shortly after 4 o'clock Monday morning by a telephone call from Jacques Cotin, the pharmacist in Prévesin. The Romans' house was on fire. Their friends should come try to salvage as much of the furniture as possible. When Luc arrived, the firemen were bringing out the bodies. All his life he will remember the sealed grey plastic bags into which they had put the children, too horrible to look at. Florence had simply been covered with a coat. Her face, blackened by the smoke, was unmarked. Smoothing her hair in a desolate gesture of farewell, Luc's fingers encountered something strange. He felt around, carefully tilting the young woman's head to one side, then called over a fireman to show him, at the base of the skull, an open wound. It must have been from a beam that fell on her, the fireman said. Part of the attic had collapsed. Luc then clambered into the red truck where the rescuers had placed Jean-Claude, the only one of the family who was still alive. His pulse was weak. He was in pyjamas, unconscious, burnt yet already as cold as a corpse. An ambulance arrived and took him away to the closest major hospital, across the border in Geneva. It was dark, chilly, and the jets of water from the fire hoses had drenched everyone. Since there was nothing more to be done at the scene, Luc went to the Cotins' house to dry off. In the yellow light of the kitchen, they listened to the sputtering of the coffee pot, not daring to look at one another. Their hands shook when they raised their cups, and as they stirred their coffee, the spoons made a dreadful racket. Then Luc went home to tell Cécile and the children what had happened. Sophie, their eldest, was Jean-Claude's goddaughter. A few days earlier, as she often did, she had slept over at the Romans' house, and she might very well have slept there again that night, and wound up, like her playmates, in a grey plastic bag. They had been friends ever since medical school in Lyon. They'd gotten married almost at the same time. Their children had grown up together. Each knew everything about the other's life, the public image, but also the secrets of honest, reliable men who were all the more vulnerable to temptation. When Jean-Claude had confided in him about an affair, talked about chucking everything, Luc had made him listen to reason. "And you'll do the same for me when it's my turn to be an ass." A friendship like that is one of the precious things in life, almost as precious as a successful marriage, and Luc had always been certain that one day, when they were 60 or 70 years old, they would look back together as from a mountain-top, after all that time, on the road they had travelled, the places where they'd stumbled, almost gotten lost, the ways they'd helped each other, and how, in the end, they'd come through everything. A friend, a true friend, is also a witness, someone whose attention affords you a clearer look at your own life, and for 20 years each of them had, unfailingly, without any fuss, played this role for the other. Their lives were very similar, even if they hadn't succeeded in the same way. Jean-Claude had become a leading figure in the world of research, hobnobbing with government ministers, always offered international conferences, while Luc was a general practitioner in Ferney-Voltaire. But Luc wasn't jealous. The only thing that had come between them was an absurd disagreement during the last few months regarding their children's school. For some unfathomable reason, Jean-Claude had really gotten on his high horse, so Luc had had to take the first step, saying that they weren't going to quarrel over such a silly thing. The whole business had upset Luc. He and Cécile had talked it over several evenings in a row.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?